Now, around the NBA regular season, we've had some coach firings that were highly questionable and some that were expected. Like Doc Rivers, he gets a lower end of the stick because we know his track record, especially over in the postseason. He's given superstar level talent. Mike Budenholzer, fans could find that quite questionable because just like Doc Rivers, he's had a tenure, a momentous amount of success, and he's recently won an NBA title around 2021. And he gets sacked for repeated offense of unexpired play styles while stuck with one of the most physically dominant NBA players in this current generation. One of the best offenses over in the league, and just being given another early playoff exit, facing off against a way lesser team when it should have been them over in the conference finals. Results will always be the precursor of the scapegoat why they're always out. Nick Nurse, given the results he has over in the small market, and still made a pretty competitive team out of the Toronto Raptors with the lesser name value. He's better be a premier coach in the market for the Milwaukee Bucks to take advantage of. Philip Rivers, I would advise an assistant coach route so he could be given all-star talent just to piss down their leg, and then it's the coach's fault for just not making the play style. Like, was it really Doc Rivers' fault when Ben Simmons was shooting around 7 jump shots, missed over a dunk? Was it his fault? Or James Harden and Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid that recently just won this year's league MVP after consummate debates that it should have belonged to Nikola Jokic. That no, it should have belonged to Giannis Antetokounmpo. And when Nikola Jokic has had also a number 1 seeded offense and was top of the Western Conference for a plethora of months, averaging over a triple-double for a majority of the series and dominating against the Los Angeles Lakers. Current track record could perceive that Nikola Jokic is the more superior player out of Joel Embiid. That just has a surplus of big man maneuvers and isn't that passive to get everybody involved over in the offense. And yet, Embiid gets it to a point over the narrative when we know his track record in the postseason. And then he comes averaging over 15 points, only 15 points, out of the league MVP in a Game 7 where it mattered the most, and James Harden with 9 points when he's been the scoring leader, a league MVP and a 10-time All-Star. And we got more of our rotation guys than we did out of our 2 All-Stars that's supposed to show out and make sure that the Celtics got a game that's worth watching. Instead, it was a 30-point shutout with Jason Tatum having possibly his career high in points in the postseason. So, I would say the coaches get the shorter end of the stick because there's only so much you can do when the players get the X's and O's, and that would give a consummating narrative that would possibly lower the standard or at least lower the stock of certain players that we perceive to be the top of the echelon, just all because they couldn't execute, and yet the coaches get the shorter end of the stick. Just like when Doc Rivers had it when he was over in Orlando, when he won Coach of the Year, the youngest Coach of the Year, over to Boston. Then he went over to the Clippers trying to make a contender out of them. We know how that went with Lob City. And then his stint over with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and then now this stint over with Joel Embiid and whatever the hell they cooked out. Now, I understand possibly a new regime, because I don't feel like Doc Rivers have an identifiable play style, and I think anytime he coaches, it's just let the players do whatever they want and let them game plan outside the box instead of them executing a play that could actually be beneficial over to their system. So, if, like, Michael Malone was available, Eric Spoelstra, that actually have coaches in place that actually fit players that possibly can drop over 30 and become a good cohesive unit, that would actually be pretty beneficial for the Philadelphia 76ers at this point, and actually make a more formatted offense or defense, depending on if they're still trying to contend. Mike Budenholzer was the same way, just thinking just Giannis got to kick it out, move over in the ball, nobody hustles, and no game planning. We just got Giannis, that's it. When Dwayne Casey also got the shorter end of the stick when he got sacked from Toronto after consummate conference finals appearances with DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. The only long-standing coaches have at least multi-championship results that are still on teams, like Greg Popovich for the San Antonio Spurs, Eric Spoelstra for the Miami Heat, and Steve Kerr for the Golden State Warriors. Hell, the same thing could be said about Tom Thibodeau from the New York Knicks, even though we know his tenure as coach when he was struggling to get rotations going for the Minnesota Timberwolves, or when he was coaching Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose over in Chicago. All of these play over in a factor that results will carry over that the coaches can't compensate, because there's only so much they can control, because they're only supposed to fill over the X's and O's and inspire over and try to get their team motivated enough to try to execute them, and the players are supposed to be the finishing product of that and try to execute above hand how that's supposed to go. So I just don't feel like coaches, especially in sports media, get a fair shake, especially over in the NBA, because sometimes having a 54 or 55 win season doesn't mean anything if you've been a first round exit for the last half decade or decade. So that's my take in all of this. Sure, is it good that the Sixers move over to a new direction? Yes. But does Doc Rivers deserve the entire blame for what happened? No. Tell me how you guys feel down below. You feel like who do you feel like would be the perfect fit for the Philadelphia 76ers, or current coaches that could be fired? I don't know what they're going to do with Toronto. Nick Nurse has been a godsend for them in their play schemes. We know Emmanuel Udoka is coaching the Houston Rockets after his affair scandal he had with the Boston Celtics. So, yeah, we're going to see a lot of facelifts with certain teams that could be a positive or a negative. We can't really guarantee. It's the players instead of what the coaches can do sometimes. Thanks for watching the DST show. Like, comment, subscribe if you are interested down below. I also got a Ja Morant video. We got a video involving wrestling stuff. That's it for me.